All these things on the telly, all these documentaries, it's always type 2.
It's everywhere. Type 2, type 2, type 2.
But type 1 diabetes is not on anybody's radar unless you have somebody very close to you with type 1 diabetes.
Because you're not given the information.
You know, you've got asthma, you've got eczema.
I knew about meningitis, I knew about cot death.
You're aware of all these other childhood, illnesses, but no mention of type 1 diabetes.
3 mums, no history of diabetes in their families, but 3 stories of type 1 diabetes, which has nothing to do with weight or lifestyle, developing out of the blue in their children.
I'm Scarlett Rose and I'm 9. I've had it since I was 3. Louis had diabetes before me because he had his when he was 3 as well.
Some of my friends know what it is, some don't, because it asks me what it does. And I'm just like, my pancreas doesn't work.
He was 3.5. I'd taken him to the doctors because he'd started off with a temperature and just generally not right. He was drinking excessive beakers of water. We thought, oh, it's a bit hot, so maybe it's the weather. And then one night he was in the bathroom drinking from the tap. The week before, I'd put him in a new outfit and his little shorts fell down, even with the adjustable waistband in it. And that's when I realised he'd lost weight as well.
Often, the warning signs of type 1 diabetes are, with hindsight, obvious. Thirsty, going to the toilet a lot, tired, and getting thinner. But sometimes they're not.
The symptoms could all be very easily mixed up with puberty. They crawl out of bed at 10, 11 o'clock. He was falling asleep watching telly, but it was quite late at night. Didn't think too much of that. He was drinking a lot and going to the toilet a lot, but I just thought the two went arm in arm, you know.
I used to, at night, bring up a big 2-litre bottle of water, and by the morning it'd be gone. Because I'd be waking up in the middle of the night 4 or 5 times, just having to have a drink and go to the toilet.
And the thinner, he was quite a well-built, solid lad, and he suddenly shot up last summer. He grew about 6 inches. So of course he'd lost weight. I didn't think anything of it, I just thought it was all puberty.
The immune system of these children was attacking the cells inside their pancreas that produce insulin. Without insulin, glucose cannot be released from the blood, starving vital organs of energy. It makes you feel tired, you lose weight, you're thirsty, and you wee a lot. And it develops very quickly.
I took him to the GP and took a urine sample, and they said, oh, it's more likely a water infection. We'll put him on antibiotics. I mean, I mentioned the excessive thirst and bedwetting.
The huge problem we have when we see children, we often think about other things, not necessarily type 1 diabetes. If you see a child presenting who is unwell, think glucose. And if you think glucose, you need to be doing blood glucose testing. Don't wait for a hospital test.
We went to the doctors and was told to bring him back in 10 days for a blood test. The next morning, he woke up and he could hardly breathe. He could hardly stand up. So I phoned the doctors and said, I don't know what's the matter this morning, but he can hardly breathe, he can't stand up, he can't walk.
I think I was in my pyjamas and dressing gown at that point, so Mum just passed me some flip-flops. It was snowy, yeah, but I think Mum just wanted to get me in there as quick as possible.
A doctor and 2 nurses came out a door, ushered us straight into the doctor's room, and I heard the nurse say, send everybody home, rebook appointments, we're closed, this is an emergency.
Ben's body was breaking down fat and muscle in a desperate attempt to produce energy. Because his type 1 diabetes hadn't been diagnosed quickly enough, he developed DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis. It's life-threatening. Around 1 in 5 children have DKA by the time they're diagnosed.
They did an immediate pinprick test which showed his blood sugar levels, I believe, to be in the high 30s, low 40s, which is dangerously high.
There was a man there and he sort of said, "You all right, mate?" and, you know, trying to comfort me almost. And after that, I think I probably just fell asleep or became unconscious.
That will live with me forever, that it's somehow, I missed it. And I couldn't have stopped him getting type 1 diabetes, but I could have stopped him getting DKA. And it was DKA that nearly killed him.
There are cases where people weren't as fortunate as I was and couldn't make it through.
Beth's son Peter died after developing DKA. He was 13 years old.
We were the worst case scenario. I took him thinking, yeah, he's not very well. He's got a cough, a cold, flu, virus, some sort of infection. You know, it was between Christmas and New Year's. Everybody's not very well at that time. There's lots going round.
A lot of these children arrive pre-DKA, where they just come across as maybe a bit poorly, maybe a bit increased thirst, and it's very easy to put that down to a chest infection or a sore throat.
On New Year's Day, I phoned an ambulance at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and within 10 minutes the paramedic had arrived. The very first thing they did after giving him oxygen was prick his finger, and within 30 seconds I was told he was a type 1 diabetic. But of course it didn't end up. The result was not Peter leaving hospital as type 1 diabetes' newest ambassador. It was Peter leaving to go to heaven. And that's now what we have to live with. And, you know, it doesn't need to happen today. It just doesn't need to happen. We have the technology. It's a finger prick test. It's not an MRI scan, you know. Every GP can do it instantly. It takes seconds, results in seconds, and you can get help straight away.
The simple message to go home with is, if you see a sick child, think glucose. If you think that this child should have blood glucose testing, do a finger prick test. If the test is positive, admit as an urgent admission.
We just don't want it to happen to anybody else, ever again. And we know that by pricking kids' fingers when they go to the GPs with common ailments, that can save lives, you know, can save lives.